And we're live.
Hi, welcome to the Libertarian Party of Texas candidate highlights. I'm Amanda Gibbs. I'm the comms director. My co host is Nathan Polsky, part of our political action department. And today we have Pat Dixon here with us.
Hey, Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Well, absolutely happy to be with you guys.
All right. All right. So let's get this started then. So, Pat, I've met you a couple times. I think Amanda's probably met you a lot more than I have. But for everybody else out there who has not had the pleasure of meeting you, who are you, and why are you, or what are you running for, and why?
I'm Pat Dixon. I'm running for United States Congress in Texas Congressional District 20. The only opponent is Democratic incumbent Joaquin Castro.
So it's a two-way race then.
Two-way race.
I'm assuming it's also heavily gerrymandered to be in the Democrats' favor.
I believe this congressional district has had a Democrat in every single election. Nobody else has won other than a Democrat.
Does somebody normally run against them, or do they normally run unopposed?
Um, Joaquin has had challenges, but it wasn't very close. So this year there is no other choice other than me.
And obviously you are the better choice here.
Well, I think so.
Well,
I think so.
I think so as well. So we're gonna go with yes. You, Pat, is the better choice in Congressional District 20 this year.
Well, I'm the only libertarian choice.
I would like to know Pat's story on how he came to being a libertarian.
All
Because
right.
I know that you've done a lot.
Well, I actually wrote a book in the first chapters about that. In When I was in college, I was studying engineering. I had no interest really in politics, but I had to take a course in philosophy because at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, they don't want to just turn out complete geeks. You're supposed to have some different experiences. So I took this course in philosophy, and during the course, after class, the professor would engage us in informal conversation. And at one discussion, he said that I sounded like a libertarian. I had never heard that term. So I got a book by Professor John Hospers, who was the first presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. And it's one of these books that, as soon as I opened it, I couldn't believe how fast I read it. I was at the end of the book so quickly. And the last page of the book said, if you want to join the Libertarian Party, here's the number you call. And so I did. So that's how I joined. So a little funny story, that same year, that was 1984, there was a presidential election. And I went to visit my grandmother in Pittsburgh, and she was a Republican. So this was my first time I was going to vote in an election. And she said, are you going to vote for the Republican for president? I said, no, Grandma. Oh, so you're going to vote for the Democrat? No, Grandma. Well, it's important that you vote. You really should vote. I will vote, Grandma. Well, who are you going to vote for? I said, the Libertarian. She said, what's that? And I said, well, libertarians believe in liberty. She said, that doesn't sound very good. And that's when I learned how difficult it is to sell libertarianism.
Some people don't want liberty, apparently. They want to either be ruled or to rule others, which
Well,
is kind of scary.
There's other places you can live. North Korea, I'm sure will take you.
North Korea, Venezuela, other parts of the world, yes. I don't see a lot of people clamoring to move to those countries, though.
Nah, they have fences to keep people in.
All right, so then you've been an active libertarian since was that 84?
Really, when I joined the party, I wasn't very active. I just paid and got the newsletter. It was around 1998, and I was in Virginia at the time. That's where I got involved. I met Professor Jim Lark, who has been in libertarian leadership for quite a while. And he got me involved there in Virginia so that I came to Texas. I was looking for how I could be involved. And
Mm-hmm.
here I was in Austin, and we had a very active county affiliate.
Awesome. And so you've been involved since the '98 then. So
Yeah.
it's a good amount of time to be involved with the Libertarian Party, and you're still a libertarian. You have not given up on the party. You have not given up on liberty. So thank you.
He's done a very good job at mentoring us younger, not that I'm young, but us younger folks like starting to become active. And I love that about you, Pat.
Happy to help.
All right. So running against a Democrat for a congressional seat, when you win, if you win, sounds like gerrymandering.
I like win.
I like win when you win. Everybody who gets elected, they typically have one or two key priorities that they want to focus on. So what are your top two, top three priorities that when you win, you want to tackle?
Well, I kind of reject that approach because when I see people saying elect me and here's the three things I'm going to do. If you're one of 435 members, you can't guarantee those outcomes, and you don't know what's going to happen. Is COVID going to happen? Is Putin going to invade Ukraine? So I prefer to say I'm a libertarian. That's my agenda. That is my platform. I'm not going to promise this or that or some other thing. Whatever the priorities are going to be determined when you're in office. So when I was in city council here in Lago Vista, I approached it as if I was interviewing for a job. I got hired based on my qualifications, and the things that come up or the opportunities that present themselves, that's what I'll focus on. But for this to be June and people take office in January, February next year, you don't know what the priorities are. So I kind of reject the idea of having a top two, top three.
All right. So the top idea then is just libertarianism. Whatever comes up as a matter of issue for Congress to handle, you'll treat it as a libertarian and from the libertarian perspective.
Right. Well, one thing I will focus on right now is I think the way elections happen in the United States and frankly in a lot of places is it's like war. Those are my enemies. I have to kill them. I want to the extent that I can, make elections more about interviewing for a job. And I did this with Sarah Eckhart, who was a Texas senator. When I ran in two election cycles against her, it wasn't attacking her. We actually get along very well. And right now, Sarah Eckhart is one of the people one of the few in the Texas legislature that we can talk to and help defend the democratic process by removing us from the ballot.
Oh, she stood up for us against Mays Middleton very hard.
Yeah, so I really think that to the extent I can, if Joaquin Castro is welcome to it, let's show people how elections should really happen.
No more of these attack campaigns against someone based on their ideas, but just say, here's what I want to do, or here's what it needs to be.
Right, and actually agree with, if there's Joaquin Castro on some of the issues like border policy, I probably agree with him on a lot of cases, and I don't have any problem saying, here's where I agree. That's one of the reasons I think as libertarians we favor changing the voting system. Things like approval voting or ranked choice voting foster more of that approach, because the voting system we have now is you can only choose one, so everybody else has to be evil. I have to attack them. I think it's a far better process, and I think we see that in the Libertarian Party. Certainly the LP of Texas, when we use approval voting, it has good results.
Yes, agreed with that. And for anybody who doesn't know what those are, the approval voting system is select which candidates you would be okay with if they won. And whoever wins the most or whoever receives the most number of approvals wins. You have no runoffs, so you avoid the whole runoffs in the primaries and the general election. And then ranked choice is similar, but you just rank them in your preferred order.
Mm-hmm.
I like the rank choice, just
Yep.
personally. Arthur Thomas is probably going to kill me.
I liked ranked choice as well, and I saw, I hear some detractors for ranked choice based on how it worked in Alaska, but I keep telling them that's because Alaska did it wrong. They completely.
So one comment about that, at this stage, it's hard to make it a federal issue because it's not really adopted locally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are cities like St. Louis who have adopted approval voting. Here in Austin, the voters voted to have ranked choice, but they can't implement it because state law prohibits. So that's really a local state issue. I think it has to get that sense of approval locally before you try something federally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really something that a congressional candidate would run on,
Mm-hmm.
but it is something that I think through the way we conduct the campaign that you can make people aware of.
Yeah, you can support it, and you can educate individuals on it so that they can go and talk to their local Texas legislatures to say, "Hey, I support this. Please make it, happen or be allowed here in Texas."
Mm-hmm.
So you had talked about like having some similarities with the incumbent right now. What kind of sets you apart from him?
Well, for one, so I'm a libertarian, and when you look at his legislative history, he has voted with Joe Biden, I believe, 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would vote with Joe Biden 100% of the time. Certainly on economic policy, anything that's going to inflate the debt more than it already has been inflated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one. Uh, I think it's interesting how Joaquin Castro doesn't really have much of a record. He seems to be really quiet. If you go looking for times when he's been on television, or there aren't that many, and he's not very effective. I don't believe there's been a single bill that he sponsored that has passed. The only bill that went to the president's desk was a national emergency bill that he wrote that got vetoed by Trump, and it died there. So I don't believe you would say he's a very effective legislator.
Mm-hmm. Do you know
Underperformed.
do you know if in the primaries he had any competition there, or did he just automatically win that?
I don't believe he did. He may have, but it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you win and you will be in office, we've heard several different approaches that a congressman may have for working with their constituents. So the people who elect you, assuming that you've won, you've at least received 51% or 50 plus 1% of the votes in your congressional district. So how do you plan on representing the diverse views of everybody who's voted for you and the ones who didn't vote for you?
Yeah, so an important component is constituent services, and you need to maintain that engagement. The way typically that happens is with town halls and
Mm-hmm.
visiting the district on a routine basis. When I was in city council here in Lago Vista, there really was no good mechanism for the public to engage with members of council other than showing up at the council meeting. So when I got elected, I created essentially a blog saying, here's what is happening. Here's what we voted on. Here's why I voted the way I did. I tried to establish this routine meeting of, hey, you want to come have a beer with me and talk about issues? So You can look at my website, patdixon.org, and I have a record of that city council term, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see what I did in office. So it's a lot of the same thing. You tend to, as you get toward state and federal office, it gets more professionalized and you have more staff to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that with really no staff here locally.
Yeah, so it's taking what you've already done as a council member previously and expanding that to the entire district. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not like you're just making something up. It's something that you've already done and shown that this works and is successful.
Yeah, to tie that back into something we talked about before, which is the combative, warlike nature of
Mm-hmm.
politics, what I see a lot of are these congressional hearings, which really are grandstanding exercises.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be members of Congress asking questions. They're not really asking questions, they're getting sound bites that they can promote. Look at me attacking Dr. Fauci or somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Look at look how good I am fighting for you. I think that's really not constituent services. That's just feeding your base.
Mm-hmm.
Constituent services is actually asking real questions, trying to figure out what the best policy is. So I think you have to set the tone the right way. If you set this combative tone, then you're only going to have your base and you're not going to have anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds very familiar. Setting the tone.
Sound like a convention?
Good. Okay, I do have a question about you and where you are, because so now I have seen Lago Vista is apparently very libertarian friendly. There's been quite a few libertarians that have been on city council there.
Yeah, I think I was the first, and then after me, Mark Tippett. And the former mayor at one time tried to run as a libertarian for governor. Uh, Mark Tippett and I don't really agree that he should be classified as libertarian. Some of his policy, but I think there is some reception. We are a very conservative area.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see any Joe Biden, very few Joe Biden signs around here. But I think it's not like Lago Vista has this horrible government and needs to be completely replaced. But one incident that happened before I got here, there was a woman named Gail Atwater who was driving around, and there were two kids in the back seat. And I believe one kid had a balloon, and the window was open, and the balloon went out the window. So the kid went to retrieve it and didn't have the seatbelt on. A police officer pulled over Gail Atwater and put her in a jail cell. That case went to the Supreme Court, and she lost in a 5-4 decision, and it really split the city of Lago Vista.
Which Supreme Court?
The United States Supreme Court. And actually, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said, I think you have the perfect case. But it really split the community here. The police department had, it was very difficult to get some community goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did help restore some goodwill. I got along very well with the city manager, the police chief,
Mm-hmm.
other people on staff, and I think we helped restore some goodwill there.
Were you a part of the getting rid of the golf course?
Well, so what was interesting about that, I was on city council before, then members of city council didn't like me, so they got another person running against me that I lost to that lady, but a year later I got back on. So some things with the golf course happened in between, but I opposed the city taking the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
They said they had to do it for effluent disposal. that we have this water treatment facility. It's not legal to put it right back in the lake, so we have to put it into groundwater. So we need the golf course to do that. Well, that's not true because they had acquired uh, 200 some acres of land already that wasn't golf course to use for that purpose. And they were only using 10-20% of it. So it was really falsified. And right now, the golf course is in horrible state. The greens, you can't putt on them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, for a lot of reasons, I oppose that. And the Austin Statesman did a story about that and said socialize golf in Lago Vista. About that. Yeah.
I'm just asking for a friend because my city pays for the golf course that it doesn't make a whole lot of money and a whole lot of taxes go to it. So
Ours
kind of
loses
my
a ton
mission.
of money out of a city budget of I think 7 million. It loses about 1.5 million a year.
Yeah, my previous city that I lived in, that was a contentious as well. They had a golf course that they were paying for, that they had actually split the golf course with the neighboring city because the clubhouse was in the different city and then the main course was in my city. And I think we only got income based on the people who were playing, but we didn't get any income onto the shop.
Well, in an area as small as we are, we have 3 golf courses. 2 of them are in operation. There were actually several others that have already closed. So we just simply have too many golf courses here. You can't.
Just make some parks.
Yeah, that might be an approach. Yeah.
Privatize them, and if they fail, they fail.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all right, so tying back into congressional and being in the Congress, as a libertarian, you're not going to be, well, libertarians, we're not going to be able to stand in front of Congress and say, here's what we want, here's what we're going to, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to be the minor party. Even more so than whatever the regular minority is. So that puts you into a situation where you need to find a way, or you need to be able to work with people on both sides in order to get your stuff pushed through, or people to align with you. So do you have a strategy for that other than being like, let's just get along?
well, by contrast, as I said before, I don't think Joaquin Castro has been very effective. I can't see a single bill in his entire time in Congress that has actually passed, that he sponsored. But my sense is Congress right now treats anybody of the opposition party as the enemy, so the chance of actually finding common ground is very low, whereas a libertarian in Congress would be kind of unique. We could be a kind of a bridge builder on issues where there is some common ground. So reflexively, no Republican wants to see I'm associated with a Democrat and vice versa. But I don't believe there's going to be that kind of blowback if a libertarian says I brought parties together and we reduced the debt. We kept ourselves out of war. We eliminated the war on drugs, whatever it is. So I think there's an opportunity that's unique to the Libertarian Party.
It'd be easier to get a Republican or Democrat to help vote, or to vote on a bill if it's sponsored by a libertarian, as opposed to being sponsored by the other party, even though they may agree with it.
I think so. And I realize this may be a bad example, but we have had Democrats and Republicans coming to us. We recently had a national convention where we had RFK and Trump there. Would Trump have gone to the Democratic Party convention? Would RFK have gone to the Republican Party convention? I think we can be a bit of a bridge builder, but what's very important is that we maintain those principles. We're not selling away our principles.
Right.
It has to be common ground that's consistent with what we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just
More
because
than okay with that.
just because the Republicans and Democrats agree on something does not mean that we have to agree on it as well.
Well, yeah, I got right up there's a picture of Ron Paul. So there's precedent for being the lone dissenting voice in
Mm-hmm.
Congress.
We've got lots of people running for congressional districts, and so like maybe if we could get some, and then we could like have a little team of people working to build these bridges and like get people to actually work together, because as a parent we teach our kids to like, hey, let's work together, not so I think
Right.
that could be something that happens.
Well, it's very different with us because I wouldn't be answerable to Trump. But right now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a Republican member of Congress, you better do what Trump says. If you're a Democratic Party member in Congress, you have to do what Biden or the president says.
Mm-hmm.
We are very much an independent actor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an independent voter and you want an independent voice, that's who we can be.
Yep. And if for some chance Chase becomes the president and we have libertarians in Congress, we're still not beholden to what Chase says or to what the libertarian president says.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of things I'd agree with Chase on. I very much like Chase, but we are, if you've been to our conventions, and you have,
Mm-hmm.
we have independent voices when it comes to debating platform or rules or anything else.
A lot of independent voices. Let's see, Amanda, you've got anything else? I'm just going through here.
Yeah, I'm like glancing at the list to see if there was anything that, I mean, he's already talked about his transparency and accountability, stuff like that, because that's close to the bottom of the list.
So, what is your current campaign looking like right now? Are you doing any block walking? Are you on the ground attending meetings, taking donations, looking for help?
Yeah. So honestly, I can't be a full-time candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I have actually two businesses that I'm involved in. So don't expect me to be raising as much money as Joaquin Castro and as active as Kevin Hale is going to be way more active than I will be.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing, I think, is any opportunity that I have, I will take advantage of. And the real reason that we want to offer a libertarian choice on the ballot is, as hard as it is for us to be on the ballot,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many people trying to remove our name from the ballot. We have to take advantage of every opportunity to just give people a libertarian choice.
Yeah, and for everybody that is trying to remove libertarians from the ballot, that means they're scared of libertarians on the ballot because they know that we have better ideas than they do.
Well, yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while, and when you have these threats, it's every legislative session you have these threats, and fortunately, we're in a good situation now that we have people who focus on what those threats are. We can see them coming, and we've built a few bridges, but still, we face these threats, and whether it's stopping them in a committee or getting members of the legislature to vote the right way, or ultimately, if it comes down to it, a lawsuit, that's a lot of our battle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose that battle, then you no longer have a democratic process. You have an oligarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you going to have like block walkers or like door knockers or stuff like that, where like we could come and visit you and help you out some?
I don't have any plans for that. Certainly, if there are volunteers willing to do that, we can talk. But I think right now, a lot of my focus is seeing if I can build a few bridges to if Joaquin Castro wants to have a forum or a debate or something like that. I think that's the better opportunity. Uh, when you do congressional districts, block walking gets tough. I did block walking for my city council campaigns, and that was a big part of winning it. But when it's Lago Vista, I can probably walk to every single house here.
Hmm.
Walking to every house in Congressional District 20
How many
is
months
going.
do you have?
Yeah, so I believe block walking is absolutely effective. There's um, here in local elections, I don't know of anyone else who ever did a block walk other than me,
Hmm.
because all the time I've been here, no one's ever knocked on my door saying I'm running for city council.
Hmm.
Uh, so I believe it's absolutely effective. I just can't commit to it right now for a congressional.
Gotcha.
Because it's really big.
Yep.
And you said that, and I want to fuss at Mark Tippett if he did not block walk because he said that he did.
Well, he may not have just come. He knew what yard sign was in my yard. Why? You didn't have to convince me.
So, Congressional District 20 is in the Austin area?
No, it's actually San Antonio.
San Antonio area.
Oh.
San Antonio.
Okay.
An interesting fact. So when Castro first ran for Congress, he had been in the Texas legislature. So he declared he wanted to run in Congressional District 35.
Hmm.
And I believe that's Lloyd Doggett's seat. So that district runs all the way down into San Antonio. I don't know where Joaquin Castro's house is. I assume it was in that district. But then in District 20, the incumbent decided not to run again. So Castro, instead of running a 35, he jumped over to 20. All right. Which is interesting because you don't have to live in the district to run in a congressional district.
Hmm.
So Joaquin Castro did that, and he's been in 20 since. Um, so this district goes down into San Antonio. Uh, it's like a lot of districts; they don't look like the way you'd want to draw it up.
Well, if you pay attention to who votes in those districts, then it absolutely makes sense.
Well, yeah. If you have Republicans in charge of the redistricting, you make a district like 20 that says Joaquin Castro is going to automatically win,
Hmm.
so that we have other districts around where Republicans have a chance. And so for every Joaquin Castro, we have 10 Republican majority districts.
Yep. Gerrymander them so you can stick all the one group of people into one district and
Mm-hmm.
know that's you're going to lose that one and not worry about it.
Yeah. That's why they didn't file anybody.
Hmm.
So, if somebody wants more information about you and your campaign, where is it that they go?
You go to patdixon.org, patdixon.org, and if you put a /TX20, so just TX20, you'll go to my page. As I said, I'm still filling it out, trying to get more content on there, but that's where you would go. If you just go to patdixon.org, you're going to see a lot more about me, what I did as a city council member, or my engineering business, other things. So if you want to know more just about me, you can search through that whole thing.
Great. All right. Well, I don't have any more questions, Pat. I think you answered all of them in some way or fashion. Amanda, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
Not pertaining to this, so I'm good.
All right.
If you have other questions, you'll ask me at another time.
Always.
Okay.
And Pat, do you have anything else that you want to bring up to let viewers know?
Yeah, the most important thing, I think, is to try to demonstrate how elections should be conducted. It should not be war. Libertarians are inherently nonviolent. not in favor of war. So if you're opposed to engaging in actual shooting war, that should also apply to how you treat people. You shouldn't be a violent person. And when you see members of Congress who appear violent, they are using language that's inflammatory and leading to, I think, dangerous situations. I think we need to reverse that and be the adults in the room, show people this is not war, this is interviewing for a job. If you were interviewing for a job and the hiring manager brought you in and you said, all the other people suck, they're terrible, they're evil, you wouldn't get hired. I don't want a person like that in my office. So we should show people how elections should be conducted. It should be based on your qualifications, what your principles are. When the country was founded, there were not political parties, and the founders said, we really don't want that because of that reason. That didn't last very long. But I think a libertarian, the Libertarian Party has a very good purpose to represent our principles, but it should not be everyone else's equal. So that's what I want to do in this campaign.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining. Amanda, thank you for co-hosting this time as well. For all of you viewers out there, this is Pat Dixon running for U.S. House Congressional District 20 here in Texas. And again, his website is patdixon.org/tx20. It's linked down below in the video. It should also be here in the description of the YouTube as well. Check out the Libertarian Party of Texas YouTube channel for more candidate interviews and highlights. Stay tuned. We have more coming up as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pat.
See you later.
Thank you.